Fade was not a place one went, but a state of nature like the wind.
I don't know if I can imagine that.
Try. Imagine if spirits were not a rarity, but a part of our natural world. Like a fast-flowing river. Yes, it can drown careless children, but it can also carry a merchant's goods or grind a miller's flour.
Like...
That is what the world could be if the veil were not present. For better or worse.
I don't know if I want that, to be honest.
I'd like to know more about demons.
The Chantry says that demons hate the natural world and seek to bring their chaos and destruction to the living. But such simplistic labels misconstrue their motivations, and in so doing, do all a great disservice. Spirits wish to join the living, and a demon is that wish gone wrong.
I don't care.
Is there a way to coexist? To live with them, if not in peace, at least without such active confrontation?
Not in the world we know today. The veil creates a barrier that makes true understanding most unlikely. But the question is a good one, and it matters that you thought to ask.
We'll talk later.
Goodbye.
Yep, right now.
Greetings.
I'd like to know more about you, Solus.
All right. What can I tell you?
You said you'd traveled to many different places.
This world.
I wish there was a way to tell how much approval rating you have with
Dream in
people.
ancient ruins, you may see a city lost to history. Some of my fondest memories were found in crumbling cities, long picked dry by treasure seekers, the best of the battlefields. Spirits press so tightly on the veil that you can slip across with but a thought.
Any place in particular?
I dreamt at Ostagar. I witnessed the brutality of the Darkspawn and the valor of the Ferelden warriors. I saw Alistair and the hero Ferelden light the signal fire, and Logain's
Yeah, that's me, baby.
Forces.
I've heard the stories. It would be interesting to hear what it was really like.
That's just it. In the Fade, I see reflections created by spirits who react to the emotions of the warriors. One moment, I see heroic wardens lighting the fire, and a power-mad villain sneering as he lets King Kaelan fall. The next, I see an army overwhelmed and a veteran commander refusing to let more soldiers die in a lost cause.
And you can't tell which is real.
It is the Fade. They are all real.
Because it's all emotions. Because some people thought that.
Have you always traveled and studied alone?
Not at all. I have built many lasting friendships. Spirits of wisdom, possessed of ancient knowledge, happy to share what they had seen. Spirits of purpose helped me search. Even wisps, curious and playful, would point out treasures I might have missed.
I don't know of any spirits by those names.
They rarely seek this world. When they do, their natures do not often survive exposure to the people they encounter. Wisdom and purpose are too easily twisted to pride and desire.
You're saying that you became friends with pride and desire demons?
They were not demons for me.
Meaning?
The Fade reflects the minds of the living. If you expect a spirit of wisdom to be a pride demon, it will adapt. And if your mind is free of corrupting influences, if you understand the nature of the spirit, they can be fast friends.
Damn.
I'm impressed that you could become friends with spirits.
Anyone who can dream has the potential. Few ever try. My friends comforted me in grief and shared my joy. Yet, because they exist without form, as we understand it, the Chantry declares that spirits are not truly people. Is Cassandra defined by her cheekbones and not her faith? Varric by his chest hair and not his wit?
No, it's definitely his chest hair.
I hadn't thought about it that way, but I see your point.
Thank you. Few are willing to entertain such a notion.
We'll talk later.
Goodbye.
I mean, look what happens when you get Cole. He definitely,
So, I assume you're Talvashot or something like.
Why would you assume that?
If you weren't, you would have split my skull open at our first meeting before I said a word. Centuries of warfare with the Qunari do lead to this state of affairs.
You've encountered Qunari before?
Qunari raids are rather old hat for anyone from the Eastern Imperium. Although the attacks aren't quite the rampaging wars of ages past. Now we're like two angry dowagers who only remember to spit at each other when they pass on the street.
Sounds about right.
Did you meet any Kunari personally?
None who weren't rushing towards me with a sword. I was too busy running in the other direction to say hello.
You gotta turn
Met
your
some
head as you run and say hello.
Talbot in my time, however. Mercenaries and a few merchants. They're not the same as Kunari. Might easily be a different people altogether.
No one in Tevinter has issues with Tal Vashoth?
I didn't say that. Prejudices are deeply rooted back home. But I have more sympathy than most. A personal failing, some would say.
If you've no problem with me, I've no problem with you.
A philosophy I've learned to live by.
No issue with my being Inquisitor, then?
None that specifically involve you being so very, very large. No.
Good. It occurs to me that I barely know anything about you.
Beyond my being a mage from Tevinter, you mean?
Beyond that, yes.
And beyond my being so charming and well-dressed, which is
I
obvious
love
to
Dorian.
anyone.
Oh, I could do it.
Some more than others.
Some people have superior taste. Now, what was I talking about? Ah, yes, me. I am the scion of House Parvis, a product of generations of careful breeding and the repository of its hopes and dreams.
Okay.
Naturally, I despised it all. The lies, the scheming, the illusions of supremacy. That's Tevinter in a nutshell, isn't it? Needless
We're
to
going
say,
through
my
a bunch
family was
of,
not happy with my choices.
Going through a bunch of dialogue, so with all the my companions and advisors and stuff.
The great families of Tevinter don't have children. They refine traits, weed out the undesirable, and promote...
Like the Spartans.
My mother was chosen for my father because magic runs strongly in her blood. Never mind that they loathed each other. They wanted a son who could become Archon to make House Parvis the envy of the Imperium. They got me. A cautionary tale that you should be careful what you wish for.
Why would your family be upset with your choices?
Because I rejected their idyllic plan. If they had their way, by now I'd be married to some unlucky girl from a powerful family. We'd live in luxurious despair, despising each other as I waited to take my father's place in the magisterium. I declined the honor, and thus it's best I'm far from home. Less of an embarrassment that way, you see.
I'm getting the impression you don't care much for your homeland.
On the contrary, I care for my homeland a great deal. There's so much potential. Sadly, we squander it. We refuse to acknowledge how far we've fallen because pretending is easier. We pretend the Kunari can be beaten. We pretend that we're superior to everyone, even our own people. Not everyone feels that way. I don't. Sadly, we're the minority.
It just seems so much of what you say about the Imperium is entirely negative.
It might sound that way. For all our faults, my people have many virtues. We are laden with history and culture. Tevinter is where Thedas truly began, remember? We treasure our past and preserve it. You can walk down a side street and find nothing built during the modern ages. And despite appearances, we care deeply about everything. We have no reserve, not in war and not in love. If I truly believed my homeland was beyond all hope, I wouldn't miss it so much.
I guess that's true.
Why remain with the Inquisition? Why not go back to Tevinter?
I'm not exactly welcome back home. Not that it matters, I'm quite accustomed to being a pariah. It adds to my charm. I can do more for Tevinter here. If the Venatori succeed, it'll set my homeland back 1,000 years. I'm sure some magisters would disagree, but that's why we kill them.
I think I've heard enough.
That's too bad. I never tire of talking about myself.
Yeah, I can tell.
I'd like to ask you about Tevinter.
Ah, yes. Everyone outside the Imperium always seems quite fascinating.
I mean, he already
by it.
told me
Probably
quite a bit
why they
about it.
come up with so many ridiculous tales. Flying cows over Minrathous. It's madness. All right, that one's actually true, but the cows didn't have wings. I digress. Anything in particular you wanted to know?
I digress. Yes.
Just how often is blood magic used there?
Oh, not at all.
Not at all.
That's what any Magister would tell you. They'd be convincingly offended by the notion too. Of course, what people call blood magic here and what we consider blood magic are two different things.
Hey, what do you call it then?
What's considered actual blood magic in Tevinter?
Blood magic isn't inherently dangerous. Using your own blood or that of a willing participant, what's the harm? The problem is that what's permitted only gets you so much power. And what if you need more? You always need more. That's where we get into sacrifices and demon summoning. None of that is done. Not officially. Behind
We
closed
know
doors,
better.
It's a different story. Real blood magic can give you an edge, a leg up against your opponents. It's safe to assume that any mage of rank does it. The rest are quietly shut out of power, to put it bluntly.
You'd think the Templars would object.
I imagine they did, long ago. Once, their investigations might have been sincere. Then their balls were cut off. Too inconvenient. Nowadays, only the friendless are accused. Most of them probably innocent.
There must be some mages who oppose this.
Of course. I do. I'm not entirely alone. Occasionally, there'll be a Magister who makes noise, and then the reform talk begins. All very patriotic. Meanwhile, that Magister will be quietly shunned. Chances are, surprise, it's learned he was a Maleficar all along. Most learn to keep quiet. Me? I enjoy the allure of pariahhood.
Anyone who talks about the Imperium mentions slavery. It's the center of the slave trade.
Ah. That is true.
And did you have slaves?
Not personally, but my family does and treats them well. Honestly, I never thought much about it until I came south. Back home, it's how it is. Slaves are everywhere. You don't question it. I'm not even certain many slaves do.
Well, we don't have slaves in the South.
In the south, you have alienages, slums, both human and elven. The desperate have no way out. Back home, a poor man can sell himself. As a slave, he could have a position of respect, comfort, and could even support a family.
And be sacrificed for blood magic.
It's true. But do you honestly think inescapable poverty is better?
Is that what you call it? Treated poorly?
Abuse heaped upon those without power isn't limited to Tevinter, my friend.
True.
I don't know what it's like to be a slave, true. I never thought about it until I saw how different it was here. But I suspect you don't know either. Nor should you believe that every tale of Tevinter excess is the norm.
True. The extremes, I shouldn't think that's what it always is there.
It seems strange that an entire empire would be ruled by mages.
I find it strange that your mages don't rule anything at all.
Actually, the fiction in the Imperium is that mages don't rule. The Magisterium rules. That magisters are all mages is considered a convenient technicality.
Interesting.
What is the Magisterium, exactly?
The upper house of the Imperial Senate, and the only part worth having a seat on. Those seats are split among the circles of Magi, the Chantry, and the major families. All majors now. It's odd that outside the Imperium, you use Magister like it applies to every Tevinter mage.
If you're not a Magister, then what are you called? No special title?
I'm an Altus, which is almost as good as a Magister, depending on who you ask.
Okay, and then what is
I've never
that?
heard of an Altus.
Upper class. Those families who trace descent from the Dreamers, the first prophets of the old gods.
I know what Dreamer is.
If you're a mage and you're not Altus, then you're later. Lower class. If you're not a mage at all, you're Soparati. That's everyone else. We do love our fancy words.
I thought the Archon ruled over the Imperium.
Well, yes. Technically,
I don't think any of
by
these
the
talking with
Magisterium,
these people are gonna
but
lead
that
the
never
quests, but
happens. Even so, he gets to appoint new magisters, which means all the families vie madly for his favor. Thus, the Archon gets invited to all the parties. The truest path to Tevinter influence, let me tell you.
If it's a fiction, that means mages do rule, then.
Yes and no. Let me put it this way. Mages do rule, but not all mages are equal. If you're not from the right family, chances are you don't rule anything. Maybe you're even a slave. The idea that anyone could be a mage, however, keeps the masses placated.
Can anyone be a mage?
Technically, the potential runs mostly in bloodlines, but it's been known to happen. More importantly, commoners believe it can. Tevinter legend is chock full of mage heroes from humble origins. So they hold out hope. Someday my son or my son's son will be a mage. Someday. Poor sods don't realize that means he'll be a quaestor at the arse end of the 100 Pillars, at best.
Being a quaestor isn't a good
Yeah,
thing.
now what is
I
this?
imagine the average non-mage likes to think so. Counting numbers and shuffling papers all day is better than many occupations after all. If you're a second-class citizen among a pack of piranha, however, your outlook changes.
But let me ask you something else.
Of course.
There's an Imperial Chantry, isn't there? With its own divine?
You people aren't supposed to talk about the Black Divine, are you? If you mention him outside the Imperium, people make that face, like you're urinating in public. But yes, we do have the Chantry, or a version of it. Night and day comparing it to yours.
Oops.
Is the Imperial Chantry so different from ours?
Not in theory. The main difference is in the whole magic is meant to serve man, not rule over him business. Back home, ruling the unwashed masses is serving them, for the good of the Imperium. Perhaps it started with good intentions, but these days it's academic. The circles are in command.
Man, it'd be interesting to have
There are circles
have one of the
Magi in
Dragon
Imperium?
Age games be in
We don't
Tevinter.
have dismal little mage prisons, if that's what you mean. They're academies, prestigious ones. We have Templars as well, but they don't cancel spells or whatever your Templars do. They're soldiers. They watch for abuse of magic, yes, but only those who are weak or who fall out of favor get dealt with. Mostly they enforce their magisterium's edicts. The Chantry smiles and nods from the sidelines.
Do you really call him the Black Divine?
We don't call him that, oh no. In the Imperium, he's the true divine. The woman sitting on the Sunburst throne is some backwater pretender. It all stems from a disagreement over Andraste. Marvelous, isn't it?
A disagreement?
Why would they disagree over Andraste?
It's not my field of expertise, but the Imperium believes Andraste was a mortal woman, a mage. Down south, they say, no, she's the bride of the Maker, ascended to his side, divine provenance, a blah blah blah. We feel better.
I love
believing
that.
Andraste
Ah,
was
blah, blah, blah.
Makes executing her less damning, you see. So we elected a man as divine, the South declared war, and we've been feuding.
Ah, blah, blah, blah.
So the Imperial Divine is always a man?
All the better to distinguish him from that other one, yes. Don't think there aren't a number of female magisters who bristle at that. Why can't they be divine after all? Same reason you never see a man on the Sunburst throne. Because that's how it's always been done. Excellent reasoning.
Yeah, very excellent reasoning.
Do you consider yourself Andrastian?
The big question. It might surprise you that I do consider myself Andrastian. I simply do not believe in the Chantry. It is a relic, whether back home or here in the south. Something from a bygone age desperately clinging to relevance. It's not an opinion that makes me popular.
I disagree. I don't think the Chantry is irrelevant.
Not to most, no. Perhaps just to me.
It has
I'll
its
say
mute
this.
place.
I may not believe in the Chantry, but I believe in you.
Aw.
That the Maker sent you, whether through Andraste or
Oh boy.
fate. Cassandra is not wrong.
Okay.
You are what we needed most at the moment we needed it. That's what they will say in ages to come.
Well, I am also a part of the reason of why the explosion happened.
I'm not sure about that myself.
Doubt is good. I like doubt. It will keep you sane. Me? I've seen too much to believe.
There is truth to that.
The world
Doubt
is
will keep you sane.
even bigger than you.
Not too
It
much
laughs
doubt.
at all the things we think we know. The Maker doesn't need me to believe, but I do. The thought of no one at all watching out for us is too frightening.
It is pretty frightening though, dude.
Let
Not
me
gonna
ask you
lie.
something else.
So many questions.
I'm wondering if the Imperium would be a useful ally.
I'd think you'd be more concerned whether or not they'd support the Venatori. They won't. At least, not officially. They'll disavow all knowledge of dangerous cultists. Secretly, many Magisters will rejoice at the idea. And if the South falls to chaos in the meantime, all the better.
It would be in the Imperium's best interest to help. Surely it could use allies.
I think the Imperium gave up on the idea of allies a long time ago. We've been
Valhalla
fighting for
awaits. Did you
years off and on.
did you buy
It's a
it?
point of pride that we go it alone. They'll sneer at the South behind their silk handkerchiefs and say, "You've had it easy for far too long." Let's not forget that the Inquisition seems to be an arm of the Orlesian Chantry. Anathema so far as they're concerned.
We're not part of the Chantry. The Chantry opposed the Inquisition's formation.
You think that matters? Don't be silly. The Herald of Andraste.
Hell yeah,
Your
dude,
very
nice.
title
It's really
smacks
good.
of the Southern Chantry.
Has Amanda played
You may
it?
as well be a heathen. I think they're far more frightened what you'll do if you succeed.
Because that's the true test. That's the true test. If Amanda likes it, then we know it's good.
That's all I wanted to know.
Fair enough.
Have you gone to see Alexius yet? He's in the cells.
Not yet, no. I saw him before they locked him up. He looked despondent, broken. Not the man I remember, nor the one I
Bought
wanted.
COD, also one of the
I
best
suppose
open world
the
games ever
Inquisition
played
will
so far.
judge him
Wait,
eventually.
COD?
I wonder if
Or
there's any chance
Valhalla,
they'll show
wait.
him mercy.
Is
He
COD?
hardly deserves it, but for Felix's sake. I can't help hoping there's something left of the man I once knew. The Inquisitor's work is never done, I see.
Nope.
I should go.
Never.
Naturally.
Yo, let's see if I can upgrade some of my potions while I'm here. Can I upgrade? Nope. Yes. Can't do any of those though. COD doesn't come out till Friday. Oh, Valhalla? Nice. So that's good to hear. I'm glad to hear that it's a very good open world game. Those open world games, they always have their, ooh. I feel like that armor rating is not that good. Wait, what is this? This is what's ridiculous. It's here's a 50% chance to be stunned. That's nuts, actually. I'm not gonna lie. Shit, I can't do that. She's playing it right now? Hell yeah. That's what I like to hear. Mini games. Oh god, I thought I saw someone play the dice game, but that might be a different game that I'm thinking of. I don't think I've seen anyone play the dice games, but yes, I always do like mini games and RPGs. I definitely do. Can't lie about that.
It seems Blackwall knows nothing about the disappearance of the Grey Wardens. It's a disappointment.
Well,
I
is
am,
it just
however,
so? What kind of dice
glad
game is it?
that
Is it like
he's with us,
poker or
even if he was not what I expected?
what's it? What it?
He seems
What do
to be
you?
a good man.
What do you do
His
with
experience
the
will
dice?
be an asset to the Inquisition.
Obviously, roll
As
them,
for
but
Wardens, I suppose we will have to keep looking.
Anything I should know?
Altegan has returned to Redcliffe Castle and resumed his duties as
good,
Lord.
good.
The people are returning, slowly but surely. Unfortunately, our show of support for the mages has angered many.
Fuck them. That's what I say.
They called you the left hand of the divine.
That they did? What of it?
I'd like to hear about Justinia. What was she like?
A friend. A mentor. Like me, she had secrets.
It's kind of like Gwent
made
in a way.
mistakes. It made her human. I think her followers responded to that.
Okay, okay.
Was there something?
So it doesn't seem like is it pretty complicated or is it pretty easy? Like, is it not as
I was devoted to her.
big as like what Gwent was in Witcher 3, but like,
Simple. My bond
is it
with Virginia
still
was something greater.
enough to it to make
She was
it
a sister,
worth
a
playing?
mother, a teacher. So to answer your question, yes, it was more than friendship.
How did you and
Jeez,
Justinia
Liliana.
meet?
I met her a long time ago, before she became divine.
It's a little confusing.
Before she
Okay.
was Justinia. When I met her, she was Mother Dorothea.
It might be hard to explain without actually like looking at it
Lost.
and showing it.
And she saved me. No, wait. She hates it when I say that. I saved myself. She just showed me it was possible.
We'll talk more later.
No, we won't, Liliana.
Your open support for the mages likely earned you enemies. Our agents will monitor the situation.
I don't give a fuck.
If the most opposed can be identified, we may still turn this to our advantage.
What the fuck? Because you have to attack, defend, block, steal, and bow attack in a dice game. Oof, man, that does... Okay, that's a little more complicated than just rolling dice. No killing, Liliana. No killing.
You're not planning assassinations, are you?
I was planning to unleash Josephine on them.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Regardless, I applaud you for the courage to stand up for the mages.
Different, and they have different damage values. What the hell? Wait, did your phone change that to whatever that word is? What the fuck is that word?
Let's talk about you.
Me?
Yeah.
Bards tell tales. I bet you tell some good ones.
There are plenty of tales in the library. Perhaps you should.
I don't
look
want to
for them
read.
there.
I want to hear from you.
What did you do before you
Wow,
worked
she
for the
just
Divine?
fucking
I was a bard.
book blocked
and
me,
a
or
visual spy
story
for
blocked
years.
me.
For a time, I also served a small cloister in Lothering. After the Blight, the Divine called on me to oversee her personal network.
I'd like to be a bard.
Can you teach me to be a bard?
Being a bard is so much more than being a spy. It involves a keen understanding of politics.
Oh, fuck. A keen understanding of politics? I'm out.
The great
Fuck that.
game. The Bards is an intricate dance where a smile can be sharper than any dagger. The best way to learn is to immerse yourself in it. Perhaps when this is all over, I'll teach you.
Maybe not. I
should leave you to your
fuck
work.
politics.
We can always talk later. I'm listening.
How's Inquisition? I am having a lot of fun with it.
You seem to know a great many people.
Having a lot of fun.
Make friends, and on occasion enemies. It's unavoidable.
Yeah, the hero
You have
Freldon.
a history with the warden who ended the Blight, don't you?
I count him among my closest friends. I still write to him for advice when I can.
Yeah, my dwarf ass has such good advice. Advice.
I try not to worry about it. He can take care of himself.
Fuck yeah, I can. I'm a dwarf. I'm a fucking dwarf.
They say you spent some time in Lothering. Did you know the champion?
We spoke a few times. I seldom left.
Yo,
the
that
country.
Godfall
I've
game
never
just
been
came out.
one
Did it
to
come out
casual
yesterday or
acquaintances.
today? I don't
I
know.
saw
One of
her
these days.
once.
It came out.
Bethany in particular. She would spend time in meditation at the chantry, and she seemed to like my stories. The other one, the young man, he was a little surly. I did encounter the champion again later in Kirkwall. Those were terrible times.
Was this when the Chantry was destroyed?
I watched a little bit of it.
That happened later.
Looks interesting.
And the news coming out of Kirkwall was disheartening. There were some in Valrailleux who wanted the Divine to declare an exalted march on Kirkwall. Justina sent me there to see if that could be avoided, to gather evidence to calm those agitated.
You work till 8 on Saturday? Oh, is this one of your... Is this like where you'll have to like work every... Or 11 to 8 every now and
We
then?
can continue this conversation later.
You know where I am. Did you need something?
Oh, wait. Whoops. We're done. We're done. We're done.
I'll leave you to
Is that on PC? I think it's on PlayStation and PC. If I remember correctly.
Fetch me home. Find me where.
So yes, to answer your question, it is on PC.
Whatever is the matter this time, dear?
How can you possibly oppose freedom for your own people?
You live in the world, Inquisitor. You have eyes and ears. The obvious cannot have completely escaped you. The world is not made up of mages and Templars or circles and chantries. There is no us and no them. There are only people. People who must share a world which is not portioned equally among all. My own people want a larger share of the world, uncaring that they have already been granted great power.
That's not their fault. They can't help what they are.
Wolves cannot live peacefully among sheep, no matter how much...
I mean, they could if they just chose not to attack the sheep.
The wolves howl and claw at the fences that hold them back. Take pity and you let them loose among the lambs. And what